Hello, thanks for coming and listening to my training today. My name is Susan, and today we're going to be talking about using infographics to enhance training. I had a good time putting this together because pictures are fun, but maybe you're sitting there wondering exactly what infographics are. I've had several people ask me that as I've started putting this together, so we'll jump right into it and we'll talk about what they are. But basically, infographic is a way of presenting information more with pictures than with a lot of text. So trying where you can to use pictures instead of your words. Telling a story with pictures that minimizes the amount of text while maximizing visual impact. You probably see a lot of these in social media and things. So to kind of get my point across here, I've got 3 boxes here. The first one has text about what farmers are going to plant with corn and soybean in their crops this year. So it's a lot of text. It's hard to decipher through that. The second box has a graph that explains that text a little bit easier. It's a little easier to take in that information, but the last one is an infographic that I really quickly put together, and it gets right to the heart of what I want to tell people that are reading this information, what they need to know about how to take in this information. And the bottom line is that soy prices are going to go up because farmers are planting less. I get that all across in one picture when it would have taken a lot more text, would have taken multiple graphs. So that's the reason why you'd want to use an infographic. It's just a quicker way of getting across information because our brains are wired to like pictures better, and we create an emotional connection if we can use our senses more than text. Text is getting around that sensory connection. So if you can, we're going to try and put it back with a picture. So if you want to communicate more quickly, use a picture. So how can this help with training? This is now what we're trying to figure out. How does this benefit my training course? Why use an infographic? So I'm going to give you some really quick ways to use infographics to support your learning objectives, give you some practical ways. So we'll just jump right into it. Let's talk about pre-training priming, giving information before training ever starts. Maybe this goes out in an email before the training even starts as a way to get your learners to understand what they're going to be learning about. So as soon as you see this picture, your learner hopefully will start trying to make connections and search for the prior learning that they already have that's going to match this new information that's presented. That makes it easier to take in the information once they actually get to your training. So how about a creative activity? Maybe this is more for the classroom, but maybe in a corporate setting as well. Give information, then ask them to present or to create an infographic. The very act of creating an infographic forces the brain to organize new information and connect it to things it already knows. So, very simply, use infographics in your PowerPoints instead of just text. So, again, it's creating that visual engagement that's making me want to figure out what's in here instead of my eyes just glazing over looking at a bunch of text. So use infographics as a way to do reinforcement posters, job aids, handouts. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to figure out where you might need that in a little bit, but it's just a different format of the same information that you've already given them, so that reinforces previous learning. How about a fill-in-the-blank infographic? So this one doesn't have any blanks, but it'd be easy to put some in one like this. So our brains don't like incomplete stories. We want to fill in the blanks. We have just a need to fill in those blanks. And so this can be a good way to use during an activity is to give an infographic with a blank in it and say, okay, now go fill it in. So searching for and discovering answers helps us take in that information more effectively. And lastly, problem solving. I give you an infographic and you tell me what it says. It's a new way to analyze and interpret data, and you might get a flash of inspiration, or your learner might. So there's a few practical ways. There were 6 ways to use an infographic. So how about types of infographics and when to use them? There are all different kinds of types. If you once you start looking at infographics, you start to see there are a lot of different kinds. I found this great video from VinGauge. I'll put the link also on the page here, but I'm going to go real quickly through these 9 different types that she highlighted in the video. So first, let's see, statistical. A bunch of statistics with pictures to help you take in information. You're going to use statistical infographics when you have bar charts, line charts, pie graphs. Use it for visualizing survey data. Highlighting a specific data or a lot of data on one topic. Stats can be really good for creating a need for a learner to want more information, so it's good for setting that up. Informational is just other text that's not stats related. Trying to use pictures to highlight the text that's there. Use it for presenting new or specialized data in an overview or summarizing a lot of information. So that can be handy for that. Here's a timeline. Timelines are events pinpointed along a line or a circle. Use it for showing a change over time, for detailing a journey or describing a process. Those are a good one. There's also just a process timeline, so not really related to specific points in time. They're just ordered events or actions. Use it for describing processes or explaining the steps involved. It can be cyclical if you want. Geographical is an infographic that uses maps. So you would just use this for displaying location-based data or very large data sets. If you're talking about global data, global impact of something, you might use a map to help break it down. Comparison is subdivided to compare and contrast data. Use it for showing the similarities and differences between two options, usually to invite the viewer to choose one over the other one. So you can highlight one choice over the other one. Hierarchical displays levels and options. Use it for showing relationships or ranked data, or the branching options of a flow chart or a decision tree. This can be really handy for those reinforcement posters or job aids, something like this. How about just a list? A list is just a little bit better way of presenting just that informational text, right? So it's just a collection of itemized data, and lists help you mentally process large amounts of data. It's just a more appealing way to get a lot of information out there. And lastly, I've got a photographic. Kind of like the other ones, has a lot of information. It might have a timeline or something on it, but it's got a large central image that helps convey that information. It's just more visually appealing. So that was a really good video. But to highlight that, of course, we have to have an infographic about infographics. So here, that's just everything that I just said, those 9 types of infographics and their uses in just a nice little cheat sheet, and I'll have a way for you to download that. All right, so lastly, let's talk about how you would even go about creating an infographic. Because I'm not a designer, you're probably not a designer, but it's not our skill set maybe, or you're just kind of dabbling in it, so how would you even get started? So first of all, what I was talking about earlier is find the story. Find the thing that you want to tell your learners again, that you want to reinforce. And so this is about choosing the story you want to tell with this infographic. So you've got all your content out there. Look at it, take a good look at it, at where the content heavy areas are in your program. Where's the risk of cognitive overload, that they're going to need a little more help. They're going to need that reference tool. Number 2, what are the key concepts that need to be reiterated? What's the most important stuff out there? And also take a minute to think about when an infographic is going to be most helpful. Is it when you're first presenting the data, or is it when you're coming back and going back over it again? Is it something that goes home with them? And number 3, does your content cover any complex processes or lists where you might need that job aid or that quick reference to go there? So that's probably, I've got a lot of text here, but I think this was an important part of how to know where this is even going to help you out. So after you found the story, let's tell the story. Let's think about ways to tell your story best. And I put that steak infographic back up here. This is, or I think it's a really good example of a good infographic. So number one, keep your topic, single topic, simple message here. Instead of making an infographic over how to cook chicken and pork and steak and everything else, they stuck with steak on this one. They kept it simple. So what do you want them to remember is the important part of it here. And I'll just go on to the next one. You have your clear narrative where you introduce your topic. You got your title at the top, Ultimate Steak Guide. Guide them through all of your content that you've got. You can see it just goes down the list here of all through the different levels of how to cook a steak, and call out the important information here. To me, the important information here is probably those minutes. That's what's jumping out at me, how long to cook it. That's the most important part, how long to cook each steak. So they've done a good job of balancing this out with what's most important. And that's the last thing here is remember your design should enhance your text, not distract from it. They kept it very simple colors, simple text right here, and you're seeing exactly what you need to see. So this is a really great example of well-designed, well-planned infographic. So design, that's a little tricky. So let's just talk just a little bit more about design because we're not designers. So just to go over a couple of things, and a lot of them we've already touched on here. So number one, use a template. There are too many graphic generators out there, online graphic generators, to think that you have to start with a blank canvas. Use a template, find one you like. It'll already have colors chosen. It'll have text chosen. So just use one of those. You can modify whatever you want. Keep it simple. We already talked about that as well too. This particular one right here just uses pictures of mountains and snow cut into the shapes of triangles. So anybody could have made this one. The 60-30-10 rule is about color, using the idea that 60% of your design should be one color, your base color, 30% should be a secondary color, 10% should be an accent color. So that keeps you from using too much of those stronger colors. 2 fonts, a limit of 2 fonts in any sort of image that you've got here. I think this one only uses 1 font and just adjusts the size of the text and the colors of the text, and sometimes uses caps, or maybe always uses caps. And lastly, remember, go for labels, not legends. You can see they've got the labels right on the mountains here. Don't make your learners search for the information that they need. Put it right in the center. The one thing they're going to look at, be that thing that you want them to remember when they make this. So I hope you feel like making an infographic to help with your training is somewhat a little bit more doable, somewhat a little more desirable to go and find some or make your own. And but I hope you've enjoyed my training and hope you get something out of it. Make sure you check out the extra resources that I should have for you linked below. Thank you.